What happens when you leave your home in search of something bigger? What do you lose? What do you become? And can you ever go back? This is the story of Americanah, a novel by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie that's more than just fiction. It's a journey across continents, a love story interrupted by history, and a razor-sharp look at race, identity, and the immigrant experience. In the early 2000s, as Nigeria grappled with political instability and economic uncertainty, thousands of young people dreamt of escape. Among them was Ifemelu, a sharp, outspoken teenager growing restless in Lagos. She wanted more than survival. She wanted freedom, a future, a voice. And so, with a scholarship in hand and hope in her heart, Ifemelu boarded a plane bound for the United States. It was a journey not just across continents, but across identity, culture, and belonging. America, for Ifemelu, it wasn't just colder than she imagined. It was lonelier. In this new land of opportunity, she quickly learned that being African in America came with assumptions and questions. Questions about her accent, her hair, her blackness. She didn't feel entirely Nigerian anymore, but she wasn't African American either. In between jobs and struggling to adjust, Ifemelu was becoming something else, a cultural observer, a stranger quietly taking notes. As the silence grew heavier, Ifemelu found a voice online. Under the pseudonym of a non-American Black, she began a blog. Her posts were witty, razor-sharp, and brutally honest about race, culture, and America's strange contradictions. Through digital words, she carved out a space where she finally felt seen. Ironically, in a land where she felt invisible, her voice echoed louder than ever. While Ifemelu forged a voice in America, Obinze's story unfolded across the Atlantic. In London, he was just another undocumented immigrant, paperless, nameless, invisible. This was not the England he'd grown up reading about. No grand castles, no red phone booths, just dreary rooms, cash-in-hand jobs, and the constant dread of being caught. Once a literature-loving student in Nigeria, Obinze now scrubbed toilets in office buildings where no one knew his name. His world had shrunk to shadows. Years passed, borders closed, papers were denied, and eventually they returned. Ifemelu came back to Nigeria changed, worldly, weary, and unexpectedly homesick. Lagos had grown faster than she remembered. It was louder, brighter, brasher. And Obinze? He was now successful, married, respected, but something inside him had been left behind, buried in those cold London years. Their reunion was tender and complicated. Americanah, that was the word now whispered about her. A Nigerian who came back acting different. Her accent didn't fit. Her views seemed foreign. But Ifemelu had seen the world, and the world had changed her. As she rebuilt a life in Lagos, her biggest realization surfaced. Home wasn't a place. Home was the version of yourself that felt true. And for Obinze, her return ignited questions he couldn't quiet about love, about settling, and about the person he might have become had he never left. The years of separation, the pain, the identity struggles. None of it could be undone, but perhaps it could be understood. Ifemelu, now firmly rooted in Lagos, started her blog again, not just as a writer, but as a woman at peace with her story. Her journey of self-discovery had been long and fraught with uncertainty. But in the end, she realized that it wasn't just about being Nigerian or American. It was about being herself. And Obinze, despite his successful exterior, had always felt a void, one that his life in London and even his family in Nigeria couldn't fill. When Ifemelu returned, it wasn't just her presence that mattered. It was her absence that had defined his life. The years of separation had forced him to confront his own version of home, whether it was in his marriage, his success, or in her. Together, Ifemelu and Obinze found that they could be from two worlds but still build a future. Their love story was no longer one of longing, but one of presence, of choice, and of peace. Ifemelu and Obinze's story wasn't just about love lost and found. It wasn't about countries or borders. It was about the migration of the soul, the way we change when we leave home, and how we find ourselves again when we return. In the end, both of them knew home is where you stop pretending to be someone you're not. And sometimes it's not about where you are, but about who you're with.